Manoj, over to you.
Thank you, Vidya, for that. I hope my screen is visible to you all.
Yes, it is.
Right. And audio is also
Perfect.
loud and clear. Perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
Let me just open the chat window so that I just want to make this session more interactive. So where is chat? Chat. Okay. So I can see, Vidya, there are few people in the waiting room. Can you just
Yes,
allow them?
yes, I will.
Okay. Great. So good morning, everyone. Again, thank you so much for joining me today. I am Manoj, as you already know, UiPath MVP, passionate about automation, passionate about Gen AI, passionate about new trends and technologies. And welcome back again to the second session, which talks about vector database and context grounding. So yesterday we did a session on automation and UiPath Studio Web. In case you miss yesterday's session, you can always go back to that uh, community page, and maybe Ghanshyam can also post the link in the chat itself and watch the recording of that session, because that was the base, and this session is going to be a kind of a extension to that session. All right, moving on to the next slide. So here we'll first talk about. So I'm going in a very simple manner, because we'll start with simple and then we'll build the foundation and we'll talk about some of the complex stuff under context grounding and the vector database. So first, understand how context affects your understanding. So let me just ask you something. Have you ever like got a message from a friend or you on your mobile that simply says it's ready? Something like this. What does it mean? So without context here, you are stuck here guessing what? A pizza, a report, or a surprise birthday party. But if you know that, okay, I have ordered pizza 30 minutes back, then it must be pizza. So this is the context here. Context fill in the blanks. It is what make a short, vague statement make perfect sense. Maybe I can give you another example here. So this is about the pizza, but again, if I tell you it is ready, then again, what is ready? Maybe you can just go back to see, okay, what is the time here, what is the weather here, is it morning, it is evening, it is dinner, something like that. So you can get a sense of it based on the context here. So basically context here set up your context, which affects the understanding. So this is about how context affect your understanding. And the next important part here is there is an also importance of tone and settings here. Imagine someone says, so I can see Mukesh and Savio in the chat. So someone says, Mukesh, you are unbelievable. Now, if they are laughing and smiling, you feel good. But if they feel frowning or angry, you feel the opposite. Same word, but totally different meaning. That is context at work. Because context is not just about word, it is tone, timing, environment, and your prior knowledge. Now let's take another example. You're driving in a city where you don't know about roads and all, and I'm your friend sitting in the car next to you, and I'll say turn left to the next red light, something like that, right? Sounds easy, right? You know that, okay, you need to uh, turn left. But if you're in a city or town, you don't know. Without knowing where you are or which light they mean, the instruction become useless. So here context give instructions their meaning. Now understand about how context enables effective human communication, because human also relies on context all the time. And when we are ambiguous, like saying bank, are we actually talking about a river bank, or a place to get the money. So words or phrases like, as I said earlier, bank could mean a river bank or a financial institution. So that the sentence, I saw a bank on my way to work, makes sense only if you know the topic or conversation or the tone setting itself. When we are also making a decision like, let's go out, something like that, or if you are at a family dinner and someone say, pass the salt, they know that they are talking to the closest person and the reference to the salt on the table, not a random salt shaker somewhere else, something like that. And the third thing is, as I said earlier, if someone says, let's go out, what does that mean? So here the context is very important. The context is your time, weather, and your location, which actually influences what your next action is going to be. Whether it is a morning walk, or if I'm talking about this thing in the evening, so it could be a dinner, or if it is a weekend, then I'm talking about some kind of a weekend trip. So this is how human understand the communication based on the context. And that is where LLM, LLM means your large language model, comes in. Before I jump to the next slide, how many of you, again use the chat window here, how many of you have heard this name before? LLM, large language model. Just say yes if you, okay, thank you, Abel. I can see quite a few yes. So LLM stands for large language model. And now let's understand how LLM use context to generate responses. I'm sure you must have used Chat GPT, DeepSeek, Grok AI. There are so many LLM models available in the market. Great, thank you for the response. So the first thing here is LLMs like Chat GPT or the ones UiPath has embedded into their products are also built to use context windows. They remember what's been said and use it to make the next part of the conversation make sense. Like when you talk to a friend, you remember what they said earlier, so you don't repeat or go off topic. L and LM also do the same kind of a stuff. So you naturally remember. So it is a kind of a short conversation which you are having with your chat GPT or any LLM model. So it actually naturally remembers the context, actually what you have said in the previous conversation, and based on that previous context, it provides a response for a new message as well. Moving on to the next slide, where I talk about how LLM understand these contexts. So let's break down into three steps. So obviously the first step here would be whatever you pass it. So LLM divides your input into small chunks, which we will see in our vector database. But for this slide reference, just understand. Okay, you write a three-word sentence. I love apples. So it divide all three words into tokens and give a particular kind of uh, a numerical value, which we'll again see in vector databases, but just understand it breaks down your sentence. Then it will use a context window here. What does that mean? So this is actually a short-term memory, and you must have seen that on Google. When you are searching for something, you type okay, how to do, then Google will give you something like 10 17 auto suggestion, something like that. So based on, so this is your short memory that holds a recent token, right? But if your input is like quite long, because every LLM or every model has got some kind of a limitation, then it only remembers the most recent tokens that you pass it to that conversation. And after that, it will predict the next token based on what's in the window. They guess what should come next. For example, if you say, I love apples and banana, but my favorite fruit is. Now, think about that. Your LLM here actually understand the context behind it. Okay, you are talking about fruit. So the model might predict something like mangoes, oranges. Why? Because it fits the context here. You're talking about fruits and it gives you a fruit result. Whereas if you do a normal search on Google, it will not give you that kind of a context. But now Google has come up with GenAI. I'm talking about pre-GenAI era. It was not able to give you the right suggestion. But now, if you ask ChatGPT, even if you type a prompt into your ChatGPT, it will actually give you the next word based on the context which you have passed in the previous chat. Now, the next thing that we are going to understand here is few example of how LLM use the context. For example, so this is going to be a conversation flow. You have got a chat interface where you are going to ask some questions and something, and you get a response. Then you ask another question. So let's suppose you ask, "Tell me about dogs." It is a fresh conversation, a new conversation which you are conversing with your chatbot. So if you ask, "Tell me about dogs," it will go ahead and provide you some result. It will obviously share something about dogs. Now the next question that you will ask is, what about their diet? So again, it will take the previous question that you ask, will take that into consideration, because they are now, they know that you're talking about dogs, not about cats, not about fishes and all. So they know this context is all about dogs. First, tell me about dogs, then what about their diet? And you have already experienced that when you're using chat gpt or any other llm window. You ask one question, then you ask a follow-up question, it will take the context into consideration and provide you the response, right? And maybe if you, the other example here could be, you are passing some kind of a document uh, to your gpt model and ask, summarize this article and explain how it applies to the marketing. So here the context here is article. So now the chatbot should know, okay, now the user is passing article in either way, either as attachment, or they will just paste the entire content in the chat window itself. So it will just go ahead, process the entire article, and tailors the explanation to the marketing, right? So again, here it understands the context here. Now this is part one. Now you ask, okay, write a poem about train. You get some response. You ask, make it funny. Then you will again ask, do something else, make it more humorous, something like that. So chat basically take everything that you have added in that context, will take everything into the consideration before processing the result. So that is how the llm use the context, because it should know the context where you are coming from. Just context, nothing else. So if you are with me on that topic, if you have understood the context clearly, just type in the chat box yes, so that we can just move to the next scenarios and all. Thank you, Shweta. Thank you. Thank you, Savio. So I can see, yes, now you are understanding the concept of context here. Context, it's very simple thing. It's just that you pass, okay, what you are talking about, what sentence that actually make sense to that gpt model. I can give you a few more examples. Let's take a scenario here. Let me just move to a next slide. So you are going to chat gpt and you are asking, how do I reset my password? Do you think it will make any sense? Again, use a chat window, say yes or no. Does ChatGPT knows or OpenAI knows that, okay, they want to reset the password, but do you want to reset the password for Gmail, for Windows, or for some other application? They don't know, because you are not providing the proper context here. So maybe ChatGPT can give you some kind of a generic response that you can reset your password by, because it doesn't understand the context here, by going to a login page and clicking on forgot password. But on my screen, I don't have a forgot password button, because It could be a Windows AD application. So here I'm not passing the context. But if I ask a user has forgotten their password to a AD group, write step-by-step instruction to help them reset the password. So here I am providing it context. Azure directory is my context. Okay, this is for Azure directory, and now what I need is a step-by-step instruction. Now ChatGPT knows, okay, the steps to reset your AD password. AD is your Active Directory password, and will provide you something like this. Open your browser, navigate to COP self-serve password reset. Now enter your user or email, complete the security verification process, and then generate a new password, something like that. So here on the left hand side, you can see that without context, the GPT model always, or the LLM model always gives you a generic response because it doesn't understand the context. But if you pass the context here, now your GPT model knows, okay, the sense or the intentions behind your phrase, right? So these are the steps that you need to pass. Let's take another scenario here. I'm sure that like working on some of the programming languages, be it C++, C Sharp, Python, and there are so many languages that you learn within college. So let's just understand this thing. You paste some code and you ask GPT, fix this code for me. Let me just show you that code first. So this is without context. So you ask, fix this code for me. So this is the code. So this is a Python code which actually calculate total. So I'm passing two variables here, price and tax, and it is returning price plus tax rate, right? Say yes or no in the chat box. But if you see here, the chat GPT doesn't understand because it might fumble here. It doesn't understand the context. Maybe it can give you a right result, but sometimes the chatbot can also fail here. But if I add some context here, what I'm trying to achieve, so maybe I can say I'm trying to calculate the total price, which includes a 10% tax. Can you fix the following code for me? And I'll again pass the same code here. So in both the scenarios, I am passing the same code, but the context here is very different. Now ChatGPT knows the tax here is 10%, right? So this is how my model understand the goal and provide a targeted fix. So you can see that it has again created a kind of a same snippet, but tax rate by default he has applied 0.1, which is 10%, and now the code on the right hand side is more mature than the code on the left hand side because now I have passed the context here, right? You must have done this with chat gpt. You pass something, then you get the wrong result, then you try to pass more context. You again, if you get like a result closer to what you are looking for, maybe you can just want to refine it more. You again pass, okay, I don't need this, I need that, something like that. You always try to like make your model more effective, make your response more effective by providing a different context so that your model understand what you're trying to do here. So this is another example of your context grounding. So if you see on the bottom, context help the model understand the intention, not just the syntax. So here it is not the syntax, it is the intention on the top, right? Now, what are the limitation of context in LLMs? This is a very interesting topic here because not all the models are perfect. LLMs can only remember a certain number of tokens at a time. So while LLMs are good at handling context, they have some limitation. The first limitation is they have a limited memory or a limited context window. So LLM can remember a certain amount. So because whenever you pass any phrase or sentence to the chat model, it actually converts that into tokens, which we have seen before. So it only remembers a certain amount of token at a time. But if it tries to hold too much of information, it in a very short time, it might fail. Or if the input is too long, so the earlier parts might get cut off. So it is kind of a limited memory that LLM might have. The other example here is no true understanding. So LLM actually don't know anything. They are not conscious. They are working by spotting patterns in language that you pass and generating the next best word. So if your input is not clear, which you have seen that if you have used ChatGPT, DeepSeek, or any other model before, the output may or may not be accurate. So chances are 50-50. Maybe you get the right output, but maybe you will not get the right output. So that is why giving them the right grounding information is very crucial here, right? So as I said earlier, they predict the text based on the pattern. So you just need to make sure that you pass the right information to your chat box, right? Okay, moving to the next slide, I'll show you something interesting here. Maybe again you can use the chat window, and I want input from all of you. What comes into your mind when you see these two images? Let's make it more interactive. What comes to your mind? So those who don't know, these are two famous Indian films, cinema, movies. Yes, what else? Come on, guys, I'm just waiting for your response. Atharva, very nice. Memory. Anybody else? Short-term memory, robot, technology. Nice one, Shweta. Revenge. Starring. Yes, go on, go on. Behavior. Yeah, could be a behavior. CGI. Don't know what that is. Okay. Good. Okay. What else? Okay. Thank you for your response. I don't know, Savio, what is the meaning of CGI? Maybe you can just explain that to me. Okay, so on the left hand side, you can see a person who always forgets. But on the right hand side, you see a person who always remember the things. And similar to these two person, there's a concept of active and long term memory in your chatbots or in your LLMs. So I'm talking about memory here. Those who have selected memory, yes, that was the right response. So as I said earlier, there are two types of memory. One is your active memory and the other one is your long-term memory. So what is active memory? So think of this as a LM short-term memory. It only lives during a single session. It tracks down what is happening now. Maybe if you are talking to me, uh, and we are talking about vector databases or context grounded today. So if I say, okay, this is how context works, this is how vector DB works, you know the context behind it. So it is a kind of a active memory. But if we meet again tomorrow and talk about the same thing, you might be able to recall it, or you might not be able to recall it, because this just remains in that particular session. Maybe I can give you a simple example. uh, you want to apply for a leave, and your college or university has got some kind of a chatbot or some kind of application where you just go and ask for the leaves. Or maybe for an employee, they can just always go to their portal and apply for the leave. So the first question that you're going to ask to that chatbot is, how many annual leaves are remaining? So now chatbot knows, okay, you are coming and asking for, because they know all your AD groups and all. So they know, okay, Manoj is talking about the leaves. So this I'm talking about active session. So I go there and I ask this question. They obviously they call some functions or methods behind the scene and return the result. Okay, Manoj, you have got 25 leaves remaining for this year. Okay, then I said I would like to apply for a 1 day leave on that day. I passed a message to my chatbot. Now it understand the context. Okay, Manoj has asked for the leaves, and now he wants to apply for that. So this is my active memory. But again, if I come back tomorrow and ask for the same thing, the chatbot might or might not remember about this. So this is a concept of active memory, where the chatbot only understand what is being said in a current session only. You have seen that with ChatGPT as well, where you ask some session, you open a new chat window, and the information gets lost. So this is Gajni for you, where it just remembers the actions or behaviors in the current context only. So we'll see that in the agent builder in on I guess next week, 22nd or 23rd. We have a session on agent builder. So we'll cover that topic as well. So we'll see, okay, how this active memory works. But if you are talking about long-term memory, maybe now you can go to chat gpt and ask, okay, based on the question that I've asked, can you just define my behavior? Chat gpt has got some settings where it goes into what are the questions that you have asked so far, and it generate a kind of a response. So it actually remembers what's being said over a period of time. And for that, maybe behind the scene, ChatGPT might use a database, which we are going to see in a bit. So this is how the ChatGPT or any model or a UI path stores the data. So it's a combination of available KB means knowledge databases, and reflections on active memory. So it is a combination of both the memories setting up in a context grounding, and that's how your agent remembers it. So that is Chitty for you, robot. So now I guess you have now understood the concept between difference between active and a long-term memory. Moving on to the next topic, so I'll just tell you about the key differences between this active and long-term memory. So on the left-hand side, you can see the active memory only lives in the current session. If you create a new session, the information gets lost. So it is a short-term context. It only remembers what we are discussing now. If you come back tomorrow and ask the same question, maybe you need to again pass the context there. It is fast because it lives in a session, but it's temporary recall. And as I said earlier, it clears after the session ends. I've already given an example, HR bot that remembers your last question in the chat. Whereas your long-term memory, it lives across different sessions. It is persistent. It can stay in your memory for days, weeks, months, and years, depending on the database and the settings that you have within that. And it also remembers what you discussed last time. It stores the knowledge that can be accessible later. It is persistent, can be updated and deleted. But for the active memory, this is not the case. And the example is Sailbot remember a customer preference over multiple calls. Maybe I can give you an example for that. So maybe you are a customer for a bank or for some CRM website, and now they know that uh, Ishwar Reddy. I can see you on the chat. So Ishwar is doesn't want SMS. Everything Ishwar wants is on email. So they prefer something like emails and all. So this is the settings that we can enable in our chat window, or in a vector database, or in a database itself. So when the next time the communication goes, it will actually go and check about each word settings in the database, and then based on the preferences, it sends out the data, whether it is SMS, calls, email, it could be anything. So now chatbot remembers where you are coming from and what are your intentions behind setting this up, right? So this is the difference between active and long-term memory. Any questions so far? I'll just take a minute break. and you can type any question in the chat. Great, I'll take this as no. Moving on to our next topic, vector database. Again, I'll ask the same question. How many of you have heard this name before, vector database? Because this will also help me to set up the context here. This is another good example of context rounding for me. Just say yes, or if you don't know about vector databases, just say no. Thank you, Savio. Any other person would like to say yes or no? Okay, so you are okay. I'll consider this as no. Now you have set up the context here. Now Manoj knows that most of you doesn't know about vector databases. So my next question to you here is, how many of you know this term called databases? Again, we are setting up the context here. How many of you have heard SQL, Oracle? Thank you. Okay, so now you know the databases, but you don't know the concept of vector databases. So this is again, you have set up the context here to this chatbot, to this person, and this is how I'm going to understand the concept. So first, let me explain you what is a database. Database, you know that I'm talking about plain database. It is a combination of your rows and columns where your data store the data in a structured format in a cell. Every cell has got a meaning, or every cell has got some kind of a value, right? But I know vector database sounds like a bit um, intimidating at first, but it is actually super cool. So let me just explain with a simple analogy. So traditional databases, you know that it stores data into your, as I said earlier, structured databases. Think rows and columns. You have seen that into your Excel and all. It could be your email IDs, it could be anything. But you know that most of the world data, especially in enterprise, is unstructured, right? So traditional databases store data in a structured format. But vector databases, now you know, we have got different type of databases. But first categorize the database into two parts, SQL and a NoSQL databases. So SQL is your structured database where you store the data into rows and column format. Whereas NoSQL database is again a kind of a same database, but it stores the data into your key value pair in a document format. So it doesn't have a like a defined pattern for you to store your data. Whatever you pass, it doesn't have a defined schema, it doesn't have anything. You pass the information, it will just store that. And same with the vector databases. It stores the unstructured data, which I'll show you in a next slide, how the information gets passed to a vector database. So again, unstructured database here could be your text, it could be images, it could be audio, it could be video, it could be any flat file. It stored data in a way which your AI model can understand. And for that, they store the information in the form of vector. What are vectors? It is nothing, it's just a collection of numbers. So they actually capture the meaning. So if I say dog has some kind of a uh, it's a type of a animal. Cat, it's again animal. So it stores the data somewhere closer to that. So cat has got some kind of a numerical value, dog has got some kind of a numerical value. So it stores the data based on their semantic meaning. Semantic is kind of a similarity. So and because of its similar nature, it enables fast, relevant, and retrieval of grounding information is very accurate. I've given you example that in the previous slide, I love apples and bananas, but my favorite fruit is mangoes. So from the context, it got to know that okay, Manoj loves apple and banana. So it talks about fruit. Now the next thing I'm going to pick from that phrase should be come from fruit. So it understand the context, semantics. It is a similarity because we will do the we'll do a kind of a bucketization. So every vector will be stored in some kind of a in a kind of a bucket where the information can be retrieved. So first let's understand how it stores the data. So this is image, document, audio, video, and any unstructured data. we have got some kind of a embedding models in place, which gives a meaningful vector ID, or you can say a numerical value to those phrases, and then the information gets stored in a vector database. If I have to explain it, like if I were to explain it to you, so just any information that you pass gets converted into a number based on semantics, and it gets stored into a vector database. But how does it work? How does the vector actually understand the concept here? For this, just be careful here, because what I'm going to show here will be very useful in understanding that concept. So on this screen, I have attached an image here. I'm giving you a 2D example. On the left hand side, you can see we have got king, man, woman, and then we have got apple, banana, and orange. And the third next three letters are football, golf, and tennis. So first three, obviously, these are belongs to person category. It will, if you see the vectors are kind of a very close in nature, 4 5 3 3.5 5 3. Then apple, banana, orange belongs to one category called fruit. It will go to a fruit bucket here, right here. And then the other one here is football, golf, and tennis. These are actually your sports. So sports will go into a sports category. So this is how the information gets stored into your vector databases. Text data converts into embeddings. Again, document could be of any type: email, audio, video, text, flat file. And then with the help of embedding, so there are like quite a good number of embedding models which OpenAI, uh, Facebook, and there are other Hugging Face, and there are like two, three more companies provide. So you can just based on their model, you can convert your text into embeddings, and then you can store the data into your vector database. It is similar to your structured databases, but the only difference is it doesn't store your key value pair, because if you search for a uh, from a SQL database, select star from employee where employee name equals to Manoj. So it will do a kind of a similarity search, but sorry, like to like search. Left hand value should be equals to right hand value. But for the vector databases, it will do a kind of a similarity search. It understands the semantics behind it. So when user asks for a question, it convert that question into a vector and compare to a stored vector. So it is the kind of a numerical comparison. So let's suppose if I ask king, man, or woman, and I'll ask for queen, which is not there. But now it knows, okay, queen is again a type of a human, and it should fall under this blue category. Then it might say, it might give you the result, okay, I could not find king, man, and woman, but here is this information, something like that. You can just try it and you will get the result. So it is similarity search, not LHS equals to RHS. The other good example here could be, you are asking for some kind of a, let's take an example of a lab, or a doctor, or if you have got some kind of a problem and you ask for some solution, you know that it actually search for relevant information and also provide you some kind of a suggestions. So this is how so behind the scene your vector database is running, and on the foreground you can see your exact search plus your relevant search details. And similarly, when you watch videos on YouTube, you always get some kind of suggestion. So this is based on all these uh, categories. And again, if you search for, so for anything on on Amazon and all, I know they are using tags and all, but behind the scene it will do a kind of a similarity search for you. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Why do we need vector databases? And then I'll show you the demo. So vector databases, as I said earlier, most of the data that we see in today's world are unstructured, and here the keyword search might get failed. It doesn't know. So let's suppose if I want to store some video, obviously I can store the video in a database in a object format. But when you try to retrieve the information from a structured database or any other database, it will not give you the right result. So that is where the vector databases comes in. So it enables semantic search because it understands the meaning. It is very fast, very scalable. It handles millions of documents. You must have seen that while using all these LLM models. You just type your query, be it of any type, and you get a response in few seconds, right? So this is how your vector databases works. Any questions, guys, before I move to the demo? And maybe I can show you what I'm going to show you in that demo. So we'll go to UI path and I'll show you how you can actually set up a context grounding behind the chatbot. So here in today's session, I'll not show you the agent builder. We have parked this for the next session because it will be quite overwhelming for you. So here I'll just show you how you can create a storage bucket and use that storage bucket for a chatbot as a context grounding. And what are the pre-built activities that is there? In the last session, I showed you how you can use this OpenAI search. So in today's demo, I'll not show you that. I'll just show you how you can use vector database. So you can watch yesterday video and then today's session and combine together and create a product out of it. So without further ado, let me just first stop sharing my screen, and I'll also close this presentation and slideshow, and I'll just open up. Let me do a refresh and do a screen sharing again. I hope you can see my screen now. So this is staging.uipath.com, but you can always go to cloud.uipath.com. I've created a context grounding example here, so that is why I opened this website. So first thing is I'm going to show you how you can actually create a storage bucket. So again, storage bucket is nothing. You have got some kind of a document which you want to store somewhere. So for that, you need to go to Orchestrator. Again, if you don't know about anything about Orchestrator, we have done a session on Orchestrator this week or last week. Maybe again, Gansham can share the recordings with you. You can always go to that link and see the recordings and understand about how orchestra works. So I've got two questions. So I'll first take these two questions. So where vector database is used? So it is being used everywhere, Atharva, where your data is kind of unstructured. Maybe I can, hi, yeah, Gansham will share that link in the chat, or maybe Vidya, you can also do that. So first thing is where vector database is used. So it is used everywhere for now. Maybe I can give you an example. So the chatbot, maybe the LLM models that you are using all these vector databases behind the scene. When ChatGPT came into the picture in 2 years or 3 years back, it had got a limited information, and on the top of that, we built RAG, a retrieval augmented generation. So RAG was nothing; it was a kind of another DB in place, which where we are storing a kind of information. I can give you one more example. You're working for an organization and you want to store FAQs. Unfortunately, we can't train these LLM directly. For that, you need to put the data somewhere in a database, and those database information can be stored into your vector databases, where you first pass the information to those vector databases, which it stores the data into your numerical format, and then once the information gets retrieved from that track databases, it pass the information to your LLM model and provide a meaningful response. So it is a combination of both your vector databases and LLM models. So it is LLM plus RAG or your vector databases. The second question from Shweta is, are embeddings and vectors same? Are you talking about vector databases or vector? So embedding is a kind of a technique which converts your um, phrases or words into tokens called vectors. So let's suppose if you pass, hi, my name is Shweta, something like that. So all this information, hi, my name is Shweta, this will get converted into tokens by using a technique called embedding. And embedding, we have got open embedding, because when you pass data or save data to a vector database, it should be in their meaningful format. We know that computer understands binary language 0 1. Similar to that, a vector database only understands vectors that your embeddings generate. So all this information gets stored into a vector database. So yes, a vector is a numerical representation of your data, and embedding is a technique which converts that value into something meaningful for the vector databases. The next question that I've got from Sai is, do we have vector DB which are free to use? If yes, vector DB is used to store content. Yes. So we have got so many free databases to use. Even I'll show you in demo how you can use UiPath internal vector databases. So if you want to use other databases, we have got Chroma DB. uh, Facebook also provide one, name is FAISS something, or FASIS something. So you can just search for it, and then if you want to use any browser based vector databases, yes, we have got like 4 or 5 databases. I don't remember the names, but yeah, we do have free vector databases which you can use and create your automations. I'll share the details with you. But yeah, Chroma DB, Files, and there's one more you can use for sure. I've used all three. It worked for me. Okay, so storage bucket. Coming back to storage bucket, because we have got just few minutes left for this session. So storage bucket is nothing. It is like you have got some kind of a information which you want to store in a vector databases. So UiPath use UiPath manage vector databases. It doesn't have any like these name like vector your Chroma and all. It is called UiPath manage vector databases. But before that, you need to store the information somewhere, and for that we use storage bucket. As you can see on the left hand side, we have got three folders. My workspace, we have already seen this in the last call, and the other two folders are autopilot and shared. So in the shared folder, I have created a storage bucket which stores the data into UiPath bucket only. If I just open it and show you, if you see here, I have downloaded, actually I've asked ChatGPT to create a document, a PDF document, which talks about the visa guidelines if a person is traveling from India to Europe. I converted that into PDF. I got some text. I converted that into PDF and saves the data here. So this is my text. This is not my vector databases for now. So this is just my plain text which I have stored into my storage bucket and pass a reference here. So this is part one. Part two is I'll go to my admin. Under AI trust layer, you can see this option of context grounding. So this is where you can actually create your UiPath manage vector database, or you can create an index basically. So this will take time. So just to save the time in today's call, so I just created this demo, this index. So the index name here is SB. Maybe I can show you how you can create. I'll not create on sync now, but you can just pass the index. Okay, index should be uh, visa guidelines, something like this. Guidelines. Then I'll provide a description. This document contains information dot dot dot. I'll not pass everything here. Then I'll select, okay, data source is storage bucket. You can also use integration services, but this is beyond the scope of this course. So I'll go ahead and select from the shared folder, select AP demo. File type could be okay. I forgot to tell you, you can add as many files as you can. So it could be any file type, and then I'll just go ahead and click on sync now. So this is gonna take few minutes to sync. It has not synced, so sync in progress. Maybe I can just go to this and show you. So this is my current setting. And the application that I have created is, for that I need to go to apps, or maybe I can just directly go to studio. For some reason, the studio option is disabled for me, but if I type it in the chat, it will show me. So as you can see here, this agentic automation demo I've created just before this call. What it talks about is, it is a kind of a combination of both your studio web plus your UiPath apps. So here the chat interface is very similar. Ask anything, you pass a prompt, and then it will go to uh, obviously it should go to your LLM model. But for now, what I have done is, if I show you the code, you can try it on your own as well. So if I go to, so here what I've done is, on the click of this button, I am calling this page. So obviously it will go to this. Here I am writing a response, writing the message which user will pass here, and then it will go to my shared orchestrator pass. Index name was SB demo, which I've created there. And then in the additional properties, I just need one result. But depending on your project need or your organization need, you can increase the number of result. And query threshold is again a kind of a your semantic search. It should be 75% match, 80% match, or you just want 20% match to be shown there. So this is how it will go to those databases. It is not going to your LLM models. First, I'll fetch the information from RAG, from vector databases, and then it will pass the information. Then I'll just need to use another activity to pass it to my GPT model and provide a meaningful response out of it. But for this demo, I'll show you how you can do that. For this, let me hit back and run this process. So this is a live demo. Sometimes you know that live demo doesn't work. So let me just try it now. Maybe I can ask, what are the visa guidelines for a person traveling to Europe from India? I'll pick this spell checking now. Traveling, e-caps, submit, and if I come here, it has now started executing. I'll go to next step. You can see on the right, it has now got my context. What are the visa guidelines? I'll hit next. Now it will pass all this information to the chatbot, to that vector database, and provide me the information. Now I've got some information from that, the travel guidelines and all, which is stored into the vector database. So it is not stored into my LLM. It is stored into my vector database. So I've got some response here, and then if I do a next, continue, here you can see that I have got some kind of response. For demo, I've just kept it very short here. This information can be passed to my GPT along with this context, and then it will search for this information in this. It is a semantic search, and then based on what the output came from your context grounding, it will take this context and provide you the meaningful response. So this is how you can set up context grounding within orchestrator and run it. So this is all about how you can set up your vector databases and set up context grounding within UiPath. Thank you. Now, time for questions if you have.
If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask, or you can put it in that chat box. And also, we have shared the link for the YouTube videos for the previous sessions.
Another way how you can access these sessions is by going to community.uipath.com, and we are sharing the link for global developer community. That's where you registered for today's session as well. So go there. If you can see, if you can scroll down, there is a section called past events. In the past events, you can see what are the different upskilling sessions we have had in this UiPath Agent Hack upskilling session series, and you will be able to watch the recordings for all of them. Even today's session video will be available tomorrow by this time. So feel free to watch the old videos, and then Vidya, over to you.
Before we move on, if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask or post in the chat box. If there are no questions, I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Hi Manoj, thanks for the session. I have one question regarding this context rounding and vector DB, which is now we are training the now we are storing the data in vector DB, right? We are storing it for context rounding or else for any of the LLMs training purpose.
Sorry, I didn't get your question. You are storing the data into a vector databases, right?
Yeah,
Is that
if you use UiPath's provided vector DB or else anything outside vector DB, which is free or other vector DB, we need to train it for LLM, right? That is the main purpose of it.
okay? I now I know where you're coming from. So okay, there are two types of vector databases. One is obviously UiPath has got their UiPath managed vector databases. So for this hackathon purposes, you just need to go to UiPath. You obviously don't need to do anything from the scratch. You don't need to build anything. It is already there. You just pass your document, create those storage bucket, create sync the document, and those information will be available to you in no time. But if you want to use any other LLM outside UiPath like VectorDB or sorry, or ChromaDB, and Pinecone is also a very good database. So if you want to use those databases, obviously this might require some kind of a training where you need to have some kind of a Python code to convert first your phrases into your embedding, either using OpenAI embeddings or any Files embeddings or Hugging Face embeddings. Then the data gets stored. Then you need to connect with the vector databases. So this will be a very time-consuming process. But if you want to go ahead with that, I will not recommend you, at least for this hackathon. But for your own learning and all, you can definitely go ahead with and creating those vector databases inside outside UiPath. I
Okay.
can see a question from people as well. Is Cloud Bucket storage free for students? I guess for now, yes, I guess that is free, but maybe Ghansham can provide you more details about that. Maybe you need to uh, enable your enterprise activation for that, which you will get for 60 days. Yeah, 60 days you will get.
Kancham, you want to take that question?
Not right now because we are still working on getting that. So once we have more information, we'll share.
But maybe you can just try to create a account on cloud.uipath.com and see if you can access that or not. Maybe you will not have access to store the storage bucket on Azure or AWS. Just try to see if you can just store the data within UiPath database or not. It has got multiple options there actually.
Yeah, Manoj, I have one more question. Whenever we train the data, right, for
Mhm.
LLM with context rounding, will it be a long-term memory or a short-term memory for the LLM?
So here you are okay. So first, let me clear you are not actually training your LM. You are just storing the data somewhere in a vector database, which is a kind of a persistent memory. So it will be there. Uh, uh, Again, that depends on your, if you're working for any enterprise, whether you want to save the data for 6 months, 1 year, or 5 years. That completely up to you. But here you are not actually training. You are just saving the database. Training a model is a different technique altogether.
Here, my data privacy, which means if I'm working for an enterprise, right,
Mhm.
I want to store some information regarding my context where my LLM needs to work. Their
Mhm.
data privacy will be there, right?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, that will be there. That can be managed at every level. Even in UiPath, you have got an option that okay, you can store a storage bucket in one folder, and you want to have a restricted access on that, you can do it very easily.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, I'll take that as a no, and I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Before we wrap up this session was designed for you to give you the skill set to participate in the national level hackathon. Please go ahead and submit your hackathon ideas on the link on the screen. This is the first link. And if you want to know more about upskilling sessions and also about the community, you can visit the community website. I'll give you guys a moment. If you want to take a picture of the screen, go ahead and take the picture of the screen. Or else, if you want to take it down, you can write it down also. Okay. There is an opportunity to become a UiPath developer champion. Who can become a student developer champion? If your college doesn't already have one student champion, you can go ahead and apply. The link to the application is shown on the screen, this one. And this champion will serve a 1-year term, and every champion is onboarded every 4 months. So if you have any questions about the program, like feel free to shoot the questions. Okay. Thank you, Manoj, for the session. I hope I hope all of you enjoyed the session. Thank you so much and have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.